Universities, like UAT, don't exist in this bubble that no one can pass through. We're part of a community. This community begins before students arrive in the middle and high school as we light people up to what technology is about. It also extends on the other direction when students graduate, into the community where the tech work really, really happens. For that reason, one of our traditions is that every year we would like to recognize individuals in the tech space who do the kind of work that makes us go, wow, that is impressive. The kind of individuals who really live up to the ideals that we set for ourselves. And today we're very, very pleased and honored to be recognizing two such individuals. The first, Mr. Brad Jannenga. Brad Jannenga formed a company called WebPT, locally in Phoenix. Now, to understand this a bit, Phoenix, once upon a time, not terribly long ago, was not known as the hotbed of tech. We were known as the hotbed of hot, basically. That has changed. Phoenix is generally considered to be one of the top 3 cities in the country in terms of pure-on growth of the tech space, especially when you talk about entrepreneurial tech, the kinds of tech that you graduates are going to be hopping into quite soon. Brad's company, WebPT, saw an interesting need. They saw that out there in the space, there are all these small physical therapy operations that what they wanted to do was do physical therapy. But what they had to do was navigate insurance claims, the medical infrastructure, accounting, all that other thing. And it was difficult for them. WebPT, launched in 2008, was a cloud-based tool that addressed that allowed these companies to focus on what they loved. That's wonderful. What's even more wonderful is it grew tremendously. Since then, it has been the top growing tech company in Arizona 3 different times. And this year, it's nearly 50% of the market for this kind of a tool. All of this is incredible. But the reason why Brad is here, and we're happy to have him here today as an on-doc recipient, is what it means to the city of Phoenix. The way WebPT operates is the model of tech startups. It's in redeveloped urban warehouse spaces. And inside of it, it's built out the way tech people want to work. It's creative, it is interesting, it is filled with their values everywhere you go. And they build great tech because of it. And even that isn't exactly why he's here today. Within our local community, Brad is somewhat known as the shadow tech mayor of the city. And earlier I talked about one of the dimensions of being good, and that dimension being giving back. Now, last week or so, I was speaking at an event for what's called AZ Tech Startup, which is a group that is totally focused on building that fertile space for tech startups in Arizona. And I walked in, I was talking to educators, and I looked up, and there was Brad. And what he was doing amid an incredibly busy schedule, as he's rattling off his flights, I was surprised he was able to hop in and do it. He took time out of his travel to be in that space specifically to make sure that the tech startup space has the benefit of his background and his success and his insights, and the people who are the 2007 version of what WebPT was have a way to grow to become something remarkable in 3, 4, 5 years. And what we've learned in talking with him and getting to know him is that he has shepherded that group and been a face of that group forever. And that is what the tech space needs. Arizona needs individuals who selflessly give of themselves to make sure that other tech companies survive and are great. And for all these reasons, we're very, very honored to be giving Brad Jannenga an honorary doctorate. Brad?
Well, thank you. It's an amazing honor, and it's so incredibly touching to me. So outside of all of that stuff, I'm also just a rural kid from Arizona who found technology, at 18, 19 years old, and used it as the basis to kind of grow both professionally and personally. So I am you, just 20 years later. Technology is omnipresent. It is in my opinion, the most relevant field that you can get in right now, and I applaud you for taking the time and putting your heads down and working and learning what you need to come out and enter into this profession with some of the highest skill set that you can absolutely have. So what you have in that education and in this time, in kind of the world, in the U.S. and technology and this kind of presence, is really this incredible opportunity for a far greater impact than exists in a lot of other fields. So you have the building blocks, is what I'm trying to say, and what you do with them is completely up to you. When I look back at the things that I wish I would have focused on more when I was at your point in my career, I guess that's what I would like to share with you today. So the first thing is that I think that it's important that you follow your heart when you get into your career field. Technology has a lot of different facets. I personally came up as a sysadmin. I mean, my first job was tech support or desktop support, and I've worked my way literally all the way up through the field to CTO and then eventually founder and CEO. But it was because I was fascinated by technology and because I was curious about technology and because I was interested and I didn't just get stuck in one particular job. I saw something that was appealing to me that I liked and I followed it, and I implore you guys to do the same. The next point that I'd like to make is what I think is incredibly important, but I think that self-motivation equals self-success. And so going out there and taking it upon yourself to push yourself, to raise that bar on yourself, to never be happy with mediocrity. That is the ultimate driver of how successful you will be. But it's that inner drive, it's that fire that you've got in your belly, which will guide you down that path. The next thing is each one of you, or all of us, are our own worst critic. And when you realize it, the person that holds you back most in life is yourself. And to the point, again, like life is in your hands, right? And don't let self-doubt hold you back from what you're kind of able to accomplish. And I'm not going to drone on forever, but there's an incredibly important quote that I found actually in college myself. And when I read it, it was incredibly meaningful to me because I thought to myself, that's the kind of life I want to lead. When trying to put together a couple thoughts on this speech, it came right back into my head. And I read it again, and still today, 20 years later, it's still how I want to live my life. So the quote goes, "The master in the art of living makes little distinction between his work and his play, his labor and his leisure, his mind and his body, his education and his recreation, his love and his religion. He hardly knows which is which. He simply pursues his vision of excellence and lets others decide whether he is working or playing, but to him, he is always doing both." Thank you very much.